The choice of the vampire princess, the twin moons of Xelara shone above the grand hall, their silver light falling across hundreds of alien nobles. Tonight was the blood selection ceremony, a royal tradition where the vampire princess would choose her future mate. Every noble in the galaxy had gathered, dressed in crystal armor and glowing silks. Each believed they would be the one the princess picked. The hall was silent when Princess Seraphine entered. Her eyes glowed crimson like burning rubies, her skin pale as starlight, her movements smooth and slow. The air around her felt heavy, like time itself bent to her will. Behind her walked guards in black armor, carrying plasma spears that hummed softly. Seraphine moved to the throne platform, her long silver hair flowing like water. Every noble kneeled, whispering her name with fear and devotion. But her gaze was cold, her face unreadable. This was the night she had to choose her royal husband. Yet she looked bored. One by one, alien warriors stepped forward. Each stronger, taller, and richer than the last. They bowed, they boasted. They promised her empires and galaxies, but she said nothing. Only her sharp red eyes scanned the room, like a predator waiting for something unexpected. At the far back of the hall, among servants and guards, stood Eli, a young human from Earth, thin, nervous. His uniform plain and dusty. He wasn't supposed to be there. He was just an assistant technician, fixing the translation devices for the nobles. He watched the ceremony quietly, trying not to attract attention. Then, suddenly, the princess spoke, her voice smooth and deep. "Bring me the next candidate," she ordered. A tall warrior stepped forward. Bowing proudly, but before he could speak, Seraphine raised her hand. Her eyes flicked toward the back of the hall. Toward Eli, for a moment, the crowd went silent. Every alien turned, following her gaze. The young human froze. Confused, he pointed at himself. "Me?" he whispered. Seraphine's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Yes, you," she said. Her voice echoing across the chamber. Gasps filled the hall. The alien nobles whispered in disbelief. "The princess pointed to a human," one hissed. "She cannot be serious," said another. The head minister stepped forward, bowing deeply. "Your Highness," he said carefully, "that creature is a human, a low-class servant from the Terran colonies." Seraphine's eyes glowed brighter. "I know what he is," she replied calmly, "and I have chosen." Eli's heart pounded in his chest. This had to be some kind of mistake. He looked around, but the guards were already approaching him. One of them grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the front. "Wait! I think there's been a misunderstanding," he stammered. The guard ignored him, shoving him onto the glowing floor before the princess. Seraphine rose from her throne, stepping closer. Her presence was overwhelming, her aura cold yet strangely magnetic. She tilted her head, studying him like he was the most interesting thing in the room. "What is your name, human?" she asked. "Eli, Your Highness," he said nervously. Her eyes softened just slightly. "Eli," she repeated, as if tasting the sound. "Strange name." The nobles erupted in outrage. "This is a disgrace," shouted one. "You cannot marry a human," yelled another. Seraphine ignored them. Her eyes never leaving Eli, she raised her voice. Calm but sharp as a blade, "I, Princess Seraphine of the Xelaran Empire, choose Eli of Earth as my consort." The entire hall exploded with chaos. Nobles shouted, guards panicked, and the ministers bowed in fear. Eli stood frozen, unable to move. "Why?" he whispered. Seraphine leaned closer, her eyes locking with his. "Because," she said softly, "you are the only one here who isn't pretending." Before he could respond, alarms suddenly blared through the palace. The lights flickered red and the floor trembled. The ministers shouted, "Attack! The blood rebels have breached the shield." Seraphine turned toward the doors, her calm vanishing. "Guards! Protect the civilians," she commanded. Then she looked at Eli again, her tone sharp but oddly protective. "Stay close to me," she said. "But I—" "Do as I say," she interrupted. Her eyes glowing like fire, the massive gates burst open. Dozens of dark figures stormed in, rebels with black armor and crimson blades. Plasma bolts flew across the hall, explosions shattered the crystal walls. Eli ducked as a blast tore through the floor beside him. Seraphine raised her hand, summoning a swirling wave of red energy. It exploded outward, disintegrating the attackers instantly. When the smoke cleared, she stood tall, her eyes burning brighter than ever. She looked back at Eli. "You see now, human," she said quietly. "My world is not safe." And as the remaining rebels surrounded them, Eli realized that his life, and maybe all of humanity, had just changed forever. The Blood Rebels' attack, the Grand Hall was no longer a place of ceremony. It had turned into a battlefield of smoke, blood, and fire. Crimson light flashed across the shattered floor as plasma bolts screamed through the air. The smell of burning metal filled every breath. Eli crouched behind a fallen pillar, his hands shaking. He could still hear the echoes of Seraphine's words. "Stay close to me." His mind raced. A few hours ago, he was just fixing machines. Now he was standing beside an alien princess who had just chosen him as her husband. The vampire princess stood at the center of the chaos. Her silver hair glowed like moonlight against the flames. Each time the rebels fired, she waved her hand. A shield of red energy appeared, blocking the blasts and sending them back. Her eyes burned with fury. She looked more like a goddess than a princess. Guards rushed in from the corridors, trying to form a defense line. But the rebels were fast, too fast. Their armor shimmered with dark runes, and every wound they took healed instantly. One of the guards shouted, "They're using blood tech enhancers! They can't die easily!" Seraphine clenched her jaw. "Then we drain their power," she said. Her hands glowed bright red, and the air around her twisted. A wave of energy exploded outward. The rebels screamed as their armor melted, but even as they fell, more poured in through the broken gates. Eli peeked from behind the pillar. "What do they want?" He yelled over the noise. Seraphine turned to him, her eyes sharp. "They want the throne," she said. "They believe the royal bloodline must be destroyed." One of the rebels, larger than the rest, stepped forward. His armor was black with golden veins pulsing through it. He carried a blade made of energy and hatred. "Princess Seraphine," he shouted. "You betrayed your kind when you chose that human. Now both of you die." Seraphine's eyes narrowed. "General Varus," she said coldly. "I should have known you'd crawl out of the shadows." He smiled wickedly, his fangs glinting. "You were always too sentimental, but I will do what you never could. Cleanse this empire of weakness." He charged forward, his blade slicing through the air. Seraphine met him head-on, their weapons colliding with a blast of light. The shockwave threw Eli backward. He hit the wall hard but forced himself to stand. The sight before him was unreal. A battle between two vampires whose power shook the palace to its core. Seraphine moved like lightning, her every motion precise and deadly. Varus struck with brute strength, his blows sending sparks flying. Eli could barely follow their movements. To him, they were blurs of red and black. The ground cracked beneath their feet. Every strike echoed like thunder. Suddenly, Varus swung his blade in a wide arc. Seraphine dodged, but the edge grazed her shoulder. Her blood, silver and glowing, splattered across the floor. She hissed in pain, but her eyes only grew brighter. "You forget, Varus," she said. "I am not my father's daughter. I am my own storm." She unleashed a blast of pure energy. It hit Varus square in the chest, sending him crashing through the wall. The shockwave blew away the remaining rebels. Eli ran to her side, his heart racing. "You're hurt," he said. She looked down at her wound, the silver blood already sealing itself. "I've had worse," she said simply. Then she looked at him. "Can you fight, human?" Eli blinked. "Fight? Me?" She gave a faint smile. "You were brave enough to stand beside me. Let's see if you're brave enough to survive." He swallowed hard, then nodded. "I'll do whatever I can." She reached out and touched his forehead. For a second, he felt a surge of heat run through his body. His veins glowed faintly red. "What did you do?" he gasped. "I gave you a fraction of my strength," she said. "Use it wisely. It won't last long." The remaining rebels regrouped at the far end of the hall. Varus stood among them, his armor cracked but his rage alive. "You can't stop what's coming?" "Seraphine," he growled, "the Bloodlords are awake. And your empire will burn. Seraphine's expression darkened. If they are awake, she said, then I will put them back to sleep, forever. Varus raised his blade again. But this time Seraphine was faster. She teleported behind him in a blur of red light. Her hand pierced through his armor. Straight into his chest, he gasped. This isn't over? His body disintegrated into dust. The hall went silent. Eli looked around. The battle was over. Broken walls, fallen guards, shattered lights. It looked like the end of the world. Seraphine stood tall, her breathing heavy but steady. Her glowing eyes scanned the destruction. Then she looked at Eli. You shouldn't be here, she said quietly. He frowned. You chose me, he said. I'm not leaving you now. For the first time, Seraphine looked almost human. Her lips curved into a small, tired smile. Then your fate is tied to mine, she said softly. But understand this. Tonight's attack was only the beginning. A low rumble echoed through the palace. Outside, the red moons dimmed as a massive shadow moved across the sky. Eli turned toward the window. What is that? He whispered. Seraphine's eyes widened. The Blood Lords, she said. They're already here. Rise of the Blood Lords. The air outside the palace was heavy with ash and silence. The twin moons of Xelara were now hidden behind a swirling crimson storm. Strange shapes moved in the clouds, tall, winged, and glowing red like fire in the dark. The Blood Lords had awakened, and the world trembled beneath their presence. Eli stood beside Princess Seraphine on the ruined balcony. His heart pounded as he looked up at the massive shadows descending through the sky. They were not ships. They were living. Ancient vampires, their bodies made of energy and bone. Each one larger than a fortress, their roars shook the air, making the palace walls crack. Seraphine clenched her fists, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. They were supposed to sleep for another 1,000 years, she said. Eli turned toward her. Who are they? He asked. Her voice was steady, but her face was pale. They are the first vampires, the ones who built our empire and destroyed their own. They wanted power beyond life, so they became something worse. One of the Blood Lords broke through the clouds. Its wings spread across the horizon. It had no eyes, only a mouth full of red fire. It opened that mouth and screamed, a sound that made the air ripple like water. Eli covered his ears, falling to his knees. Seraphine placed a hand on his shoulder. Stand, human, she said. This is not the time for fear. The ground trembled as more Blood Lords landed near the city. Each impact sent waves of red energy across the sky. Down below, the citizens of Xelara screamed and ran. The royal guards tried to fight, but their weapons meant nothing against gods made of blood and rage. Seraphine's second-in-command, Captain Lyris, rushed to her side. Your Highness, he said, panting, our shields are failing. We can't hold them off. Seraphine's eyes narrowed. Evacuate the civilians, she ordered, and activate the Arc-Wing. Lyris hesitated. But my princess, the Arc-Wing hasn't been used in centuries. Then it's time, she said firmly. It was built for this. Eli looked confused. What's the Arc-Wing? He asked. Seraphine turned to him, her expression serious. It's our last defense. A ship that carries the power of an entire sun. But it needs a pilot who can control its ancient core. Eli blinked. And who can do that? Seraphine looked straight into his eyes. You, she said. Me? Eli gasped. I'm not even a soldier! She stepped closer. When I gave you my blood, she said, you became linked to me, to my code. The Ark recognizes royal blood, and now you have part of it. Before Eli could respond, the sky exploded. One of the Blood Lords had fired a beam of red plasma from its mouth. The palace shook violently, towers collapsing like sand. Seraphine grabbed Eli and pulled him down as a wave of energy swept over them. When the dust cleared, half the royal city was gone. A single Blood Lord hovered above the ruins, its voice echoing through the air. Seraphine of Xelara, it said. You defied the ancient covenant. You chose a human. Now your bloodline ends. Seraphine looked up, her eyes burning with anger. You call yourselves gods, she shouted. But you are nothing but monsters who fear change. She spread her wings, glowing with red light. Come, Then let's see if your gods can bleed. She launched herself into the air. Eli watched in awe as she met the Blood Lord in mid-sky. Their clash was like lightning striking lightning. The entire world flashed red and white. The force threw waves of energy across the horizon. Eli was thrown backward, rolling across the broken floor. He forced himself up, coughing. "Echoes of her blood," he whispered. The power she had given him still burned in his veins. He could feel her heartbeat, not his own but hers, pulsing inside him. It was like their souls were connected. Suddenly, a voice spoke in his mind, calm and deep. "Eli," it said. He froze. "Who's there?" "I am the Ark," the voice replied. "The princess's blood opened your link to me. If you wish to save her, come to the launch chamber." Eli looked up. A large door at the far end of the hall had begun to open. Golden light spilled out. He hesitated only for a moment before running toward it. Behind him, the palace continued to crumble. Explosions echoed like drums of war. But he didn't stop. For the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid. When he entered the chamber, his eyes widened. The Arkwing was beautiful, a massive ship resting in a pool of glowing energy. Its surface shimmered with gold and red veins. It looked alive, breathing with light. The voice echoed again. "Step forward, pilot of the new bloodline." Eli climbed onto the platform. His hands shaking, the ship's core pulsed like a heart. He touched it, and instantly streams of red light surrounded him. Images flashed in his mind, on stars, galaxies, memories that weren't his. He saw Seraphine as a child. Standing under the twin moons, he saw her first battle. Her first victory, her first heartbreak. Then he saw her now fighting in the sky. "Losing strength, Ark," he said, breathing hard. "Connect me to her." The ship's lights flared. "Connection established," it said, far above the burning palace. Seraphine suddenly heard his voice in her mind. "Seraphine, it's me." Her eyes widened mid-battle. "Eli?" "Hang on," he said. "I'm coming." The Arkwing rose from its cradle, light exploding from its engines. The ground split open as it ascended. For the first time in 1,000 years, the weapon of the sun was awake. The Bloodlords turned their glowing eyes toward it. And the world of Xelara was about to witness the beginning of its greatest war, the awakening of the Arkwing. The ground shook as the Arkwing rose from its cradle beneath the palace ruins. Fire and golden light burst from its engines, painting the sky in waves of red and gold. The massive ship spread its solar wings, glowing like the rising sun for 1,000 years. No one had seen this weapon awake. Now, it answered the call of a single human. Inside the control chamber, Eli stood surrounded by streams of light. Symbols of alien language floated around him, shifting and merging into shapes he could somehow understand. His heart raced, his hands trembling on the glowing console. The voice of the Ark echoed in his mind. Calm and ancient, pilot connection confirmed. "Royal blood signature active?" "I don't know how to fly this thing," Eli said, panic in his voice. "You will not fly," said the Ark. "You will become the ship." A sudden surge of energy hit him like a lightning bolt. Eli gasped, his body glowing with the same red-gold light as the Ark's heart. He felt every engine, every weapon, every pulse of power. He could feel the sky. He could see Seraphine, still locked in battle with the Bloodlords above. Her aura flickering, her wings torn, her strength fading. "Seraphine!" he shouted through the link. Her voice echoed faintly in his mind. "Eli, stay back. This fight isn't for humans." He clenched his fists. "Then it's for both of us." The Ark's wings expanded fully. Each 1 kilometers long, solar energy burned across their edges. "Weapon systems ready," said the Ark. "Awaiting pilot's command." Eli looked toward the burning clouds where the Bloodlords loomed. "Let's light them up," he whispered. The ship roared forward, tearing through the sky like a star reborn. The impact of its ascent sent shockwaves across the battlefield. Every Bloodlord turned toward it, their glowing red eyes narrowing. "Impossible!" one of them hissed. "The weapon of the ancients is awake." Eli's voice echoed through the Ark. "Yeah," he said, "and it's angry." Golden plasma cannons unfolded from the ship's wings. Beams of energy shot upward, striking the nearest Bloodlord. The creature screamed as its body cracked open, its blood boiling into light. Seraphine turned in midair, her eyes wide. "The Ark!" she whispered. Then she felt something familiar through the energy link. Eli's heartbeat. Steady and strong, she smiled faintly. "So, you really are impossible," she murmured. The Blood Lords roared in fury. Their massive wings spread as they charged at the Ark. Energy blasts rained down like meteors. The sky itself turned red from their power. Eli gritted his teeth, holding on to the console. "Ark, shield systems up!" "Shields active," the ship replied. A dome of light surrounded the vessel as thousands of plasma bolts hit it at once. Each strike felt like thunder, but Eli didn't back down. He aimed the Ark's cannons again and fired. The sky exploded in light. 2 of the Bloodlords fell, burning into ash. But one, the largest of them, remained. Its voice thundered across the clouds. "Foolish human. You play with power you cannot control." It spread its wings and dove straight toward the Ark. The impact sent tremors across the world. Inside the cockpit, sparks flew. Eli stumbled, gripping the console. "Ark! Status!" "Shields at 40%, hull integrity compromised." He looked up, sweat dripping down his face. "I'm not stopping," he said. He activated the secondary systems, and the Ark's core began to glow brighter. Solar flares spread across its surface like living fire. "Core overload sequence ready," the Ark said. Eli's eyes widened. "Overload? That sounds bad." "It is," replied the Ark calmly. "But it will destroy the Bloodlord, far above." Seraphine was still fighting another Bloodlord. Her energy was nearly gone. She felt the link surge with new heat. "Eli, what are you doing?" she shouted. He smiled weakly. "Just finishing what you started." The massive Bloodlord clamped its claws into the Ark's wings. Its body fused with the ship's armor. Draining its power, "Your light is mine," it hissed. But Eli's eyes blazed with red-gold light. "Then choke on it," he said. He slammed his hand on the console. "Ark overload, now!" A blinding flash tore through the sky. The explosion was like a miniature sun erupting above Xelara. The shockwave turned the clouds into fire. The Bloodlord screamed as its body shattered into 1,000 burning fragments. Every remaining enemy in the sky froze, their link to the hive breaking. The storm began to clear when the light faded. The Arkwing drifted silently among the clouds. Smoke rose from its wings, but it was still intact. Inside, Eli coughed, barely conscious. "Ark, are we still flying?" he whispered. "Yes," said the ship, "but your body cannot sustain the link much longer." Below, Seraphine descended through the smoke, her eyes scanning the sky. She found the Ark floating above the clouds like a wounded phoenix. She flew toward it and landed on its hull. When she reached the cockpit, she saw Eli inside, pale and weak but alive. "Idiot human," she whispered softly. "You were supposed to stay safe." He opened his eyes and smiled faintly. "You told me to stay close to you," he said weakly. She laughed quietly. "And you actually listened." The Ark's core dimmed. Seraphine carried him out, her strength barely holding. The world below was quiet again, for now. But she knew this victory came with a price. Because the Bloodlords never truly died, they always left a shadow behind. As she looked at the sunrise breaking through the clouds, a small red spark drifted down from the heavens. Unnoticed, it fell into the dark ocean below, and as it sank into the depths, a faint whisper echoed through the water. Phase 2, Resurrection. Resurrection of the Blood Shadow. The sun rose over the ruined city of Xelara. Smoke still drifted from the palace ruins, glowing faintly in the morning light. The air smelled of metal and ash. The war seemed over, but the silence that followed felt heavy. Too heavy. It was the kind of silence that hides danger, not peace. Princess Seraphine stood on the cracked balcony of what was left of her throne room. Her armor was scorched, her wings torn, and her silver hair streaked with dust. Yet she stood tall, her eyes burning like fire under the red dawn. Below her, the people of Xelara gathered among the ruins. They looked up at their princess with hope and fear. For the first time, they had seen her bleed. Eli rested in a medical pod beside her, still recovering from his battle in the Ark Wing. His face was pale, but his heartbeat was strong. Seraphine watched him silently, her expression unreadable. She whispered softly, "You are more trouble than any human I have ever met." The palace healers approached. Bowing, "Your Highness," one said nervously. "We stabilized him, but the Ark's connection changed his blood. He's not fully human anymore." Seraphine frowned. "What do you mean?" The healer hesitated. "His cells now emit energy similar to royal blood essence. It's as if your power fused with his." Seraphine's eyes widened slightly, so the link between them was deeper than she thought. She looked down at him again, whispering, "Half human, half royal blood." Maybe fate had this planned all along, but before she could say more, the ground trembled. A low rumble echoed through the city. Everyone froze then from the far horizon. The ocean began to glow red. Waves rose higher and higher, glowing with strange energy. Seraphine's face turned pale. "No!" she whispered. "Not now." The healers looked confused. "What's happening?" one asked. She spread her wings. "The blood shadow is awakening," she said. Miles away, beneath the deep ocean, something ancient moved. The last fragments of the destroyed Blood Lord had fallen there, pieces of living code and dark energy. Now, under pressure and silence, those fragments merged. A new being began to form. Not a god of flesh or fire, but a creature made entirely of shadows and bloodlight. Its voice whispered through the water. "I am what remains. I am the shadow of all who were, and I will finish what they could not." The sea split open as a pillar of crimson light rose into the sky. The entire planet shook from the ruins of the palace. Seraphine watched the horizon in horror. "It's already begun," she said. She turned to the guards. "Prepare the Ark Wing for launch," one of them hesitated. "But my princess, the human, he comes with me," she said sharply. "Without him, the Ark will not respond." She rushed to the medical pod. Eli stirred weakly, opening his eyes. "What's going on?" he whispered. She helped him sit up. "The blood shadow has risen," she said. "You need to fly again." He blinked, still dazed. "I thought we destroyed it." Seraphine shook her head. "You destroyed its body, but the Blood Lord's essence is eternal." They always return, darker and smarter. Outside, the crimson storm began to build again. Lightning crackled across the red sky. Buildings crumbled as the waves grew taller. From the depths, a monstrous figure emerged, a being made of mist and blood, its form constantly shifting, its face a blur of darkness. It had no mouth, yet its voice roared across the world. "Seraphine of Xelara, you defied the covenant. Now your world shall drown!" Seraphine's wings flared as she stepped out onto the balcony. "I will never kneel to shadows," she shouted. The blood shadow laughed. "You already belong to me." "Your blood carries the curse of your ancestors," Eli, still weak, tried to stand. "Seraphine, I can help." She turned toward him, her expression softening for a moment. "You've already done more than enough," she said. He shook his head. "I'm connected to the Ark, remember? If it needs royal blood, you and I together might be stronger. For the first time." She smiled faintly. "Perhaps you're right." "Human," she said. She extended her hand. "Then come." "My husband." Eli froze, his heart skipping. "Wait, what did you just call me?" Seraphine smirked. "Do you prefer servant?" "Now move!" They rushed to the hangar where the Ark Wing rested, its hull still damaged from the last battle. But as soon as Eli touched the console, the ship came alive again. Lights surged across its wings, and the core began to glow with golden fire. "The Ark recognizes both bloodlines," said the AI voice. "Pilot link complete." Seraphine sat beside him in the command seat. Outside, the blood shadow towered over the ocean. Its tendrils stretched for miles, each one carrying the screams of fallen souls. Eli gripped the controls tightly. "All right," he said. "Let's finish this thing." Seraphine nodded, her eyes glowing red. "For Xelara," she said. "For Echo," he replied. The Ark Wing roared to life. Breaking through the storm, thunder and fire surrounded them. As they flew toward the blood shadow, Seraphine whispered, This time, it won't rise again, the creature raised its massive arm. Red lightning filled the sky, but the arc split through it like a blade of light. Eli shouted, "Target core signature!" "Locked," said the arc. Seraphine placed her hand over his. "Together," she said, and both of them pressed the trigger. A beam of gold and red energy shot straight through the heart of the blood shadow. The explosion turned night into day. The ocean boiled and the sky split open. The light spread across the planet, cleansing everything in its path. When it was over, the sea was calm again. The red storm was gone, and for the first time in centuries, Xelara saw a clear blue sky, but far beyond the stars, in a dark corner of the galaxy, a new signal flickered. A voice whispered through static, cold and ancient. Phase 3, the Blood Covenant. The Blood Covenant awakens. The war was over. Or at least that's what everyone believed. The skies above Xelara were blue for the first time in generations. The people cheered, the soldiers rested, and the palace began to rebuild. But peace, as always, never lasted long. Princess Seraphine stood at the edge of the rebuilt balcony. Her long silver hair danced in the soft wind. She looked down at the city, where humans and vampires now worked side by side. Beside her stood Eli, dressed not as a servant, but as a royal advisor. The marks of golden veins still glowed faintly on his skin, traces of the Ark's power. He looked stronger, sharper, but his eyes still carried the same warmth. "You brought them together," he said quietly. "Vampires and humans working as one." Seraphine smiled faintly. "Not me," she said. "Us." He chuckled. "Fine. I'll take half the credit. For a moment." There was peace between them. But deep beneath the calm world, something stirred far beyond Xelara's orbit. In the black silence of space, an ancient signal pulsed. It echoed across the void, bouncing between dead stars and forgotten battlefields. The Blood Covenant, a code older than any empire, had awakened. Inside a dark nebula hidden from the light of suns, a colossal temple floated. Its walls were made of crystal and bone. Inside, hundreds of sleeping figures opened their eyes, glowing red. The leader of the Covenant, Lord Varen, rose from his throne of bloodstone. His voice echoed like thunder. "The descendants broke the oath. The royal blood mixed with mortal filth." He lifted his hand, and red lightning crackled across the hall. "The Blood Covenant shall rise again, and this time all life will kneel. Back on Xelara." The day suddenly dimmed. Eli looked up at the sky, confused. "Wasn't it morning just now?" Seraphine's smile faded. Her instincts screamed danger. She spread her wings, feeling the air shift. "The stars are trembling," she whispered. The palace alarms blared a second later. The commander of the Royal Guard rushed in. "Your Highness, we're detecting an anomaly, a massive object moving through hyperspace." Eli's expression hardened. "Is it the blood shadow again?" The commander shook his head. "No, something bigger." Seraphine stepped forward, her voice firm. "Prepare the arc wing." Eli blinked. "Again? We just saved this planet." She turned to him, eyes glowing faintly red. "And if we don't act now, we may lose the entire system within minutes." They were airborne once again. The arc wing soared above the clouds, its golden hull shining in the fading sunlight. Inside the cockpit, the AI voice spoke calmly. "Long-range sensors active, warning. Gravitational distortion detected ahead." Eli looked through the viewport. A dark rift was opening in the middle of space, like a wound tearing through reality. From it, streams of red lightning spread in every direction. Seraphine's expression darkened. "The Blood Covenant." "It's real," she said. "I thought it was just an old myth." Eli frowned. "What is it?" She took a slow breath. "A promise made by the first vampires, to never mix our blood with mortals if broken. The Covenant reawakens their creators, the gods of blood." Eli's stomach tightened. "So, you choosing me? Triggered it?" Seraphine turned to him, her eyes softened. "Yes, and I would choose you again," she said quietly. "But the universe will not forgive us so easily." The rift expanded. A massive temple-like ship emerged. Surrounded by smaller vessels made of bone and crimson light, the AI's voice grew urgent. Enemy fleet approaching, estimated strength catastrophic. Eli gripped the controls. Guess we're not getting any rest today. The lead vessel fired first. A wave of blood-red energy struck the arc wing. Shaking it violently, Eli struggled to stabilize. Shields down to 70%. Seraphine activated her own console. Divert power to the solar core. Warning, the AI said. Core temperature rising. Good, Seraphine replied. Let it burn. The Ark's wings flared open, releasing a storm of golden light. Dozens of plasma bursts shot forward, striking the nearest enemy ships. Explosions rippled across the void, but the Covenant's forces kept coming. More and more ships appeared from the rift, each one pulsing with the same dark energy. Inside the flagship of the Covenant, Lord Varen watched the battle with a cruel smile. Fascinating, he said. The royal line fights beside a human. How poetic that their union will end the stars. He raised his hand, and the massive crystal core behind him began to glow. Release the Bloodstorm, he commanded in an instant. Thousands of red lightning bolts erupted from the Covenant fleet. They tore through space, burning everything they touched. The Arkwing spun violently, alarms blaring. Shields failing! Shouted the AI, Eli's voice strained. Seraphine, we can't hold like this. She gritted her teeth. Then we change the game. She closed her eyes, placing her hand over her heart. Eli, I'm going to share the rest of my blood with you. He turned to her in shock. Wait. What? You said the last time almost killed me. Her voice softened. This time it will make us unstoppable. Before he could protest, she pressed her palm against his chest. A surge of red energy exploded through both of them. Their veins glowed, one gold, one crimson. The Ark's entire hull ignited with light. The AI's voice trembled. New hybrid blood detected, system merging, the ship transformed. Its structure shifting into a living form of metal and energy. Golden wings spread wider than ever before. Seraphine opened her eyes, now glowing like twin stars. Eli grinned, his voice steady. All right, Blood Covenant. Let's see if your gods can bleed too. The Ark dove forward. The battle between creation and rebellion had begun again, and somewhere deep inside the Covenant's flagship, Lord Varen whispered with a smile, Phase 4, the Blood God returns. The Blood God returns. The stars burned red as the battle reached its peak. The sky itself seemed alive, twisting with bloodlight and thunder. The Arkwing, glowing gold and crimson, tore through the Covenant fleet like a living sun. Every blast from its cannons turned the darkness into fire. Yet deep inside the storm, something even greater began to awaken. In the center of the massive rift, the Blood God opened its eyes. Its body was larger than a planet, forged from energy and bone. Its voice rumbled across the galaxy, shaking moons and suns. I am the first and the last. The one who made you all! It thundered. You betrayed my design! You mixed the pure with the weak. Inside the Arkwing, Eli and Seraphine felt its presence like fire in their minds. It wasn't just sound. It was a command, a will that demanded obedience. Seraphine's wings flared with defiance. You created us! She shouted. But you do not own us. The Blood God laughed, a sound like collapsing worlds. You think you can stand against a god with borrowed blood? Eli tightened his grip on the controls. The veins of gold on his arms glowed brighter. Maybe we don't need to be gods, he said quietly. Maybe we just need to be human enough to fight you. The Arkwing charged forward, weaving through the storm of red lightning. Thousands of Covenant ships broke apart in its wake. The Blood God raised one massive hand, and space itself bent. A single gesture sent the Ark spiraling toward the planet below. Eli fought the pull, his teeth gritted. Ark, stabilize! Gravity field unbalanced, the AI replied. Calculating counterforce. Seraphine reached out and placed her hand over his. Her voice was calm despite the chaos. You're not alone, Eli, she whispered. He looked at her. Her crimson eyes glowed softly, not with anger but faith. Together they focused, their blood energy merging through the ship's core. The Arkwing stopped falling. Golden energy burst outward. Tearing through the gravity field, the ship rocketed upward like a comet. Straight toward the Blood God from the temple ship, Lord Varen watched in disbelief. "They can't fight him," he hissed. "No one can." But deep inside, he felt something strange, fear. He turned to flee. Yet the blood god's voice filled his mind. "Run, little priest. Your time is over." A crimson beam shot through Varen's chest, erasing him in silence. The Archwing reached the blood god's chest. Eli's voice echoed through the comms. "Targeting the core!" The ship's weapons locked on. But the AI warned, "Energy level insufficient. Recommend core fusion." Seraphine looked at Eli, understanding immediately. "That means we won't survive," she said softly. He smiled sadly. "I was never supposed to be here anyway." She shook her head, a tear falling but turning to light before it touched her cheek. "You belong here with me." She leaned closer and kissed him once. Their blood energies merged completely, turning white hot. The Ark's core flared like a sun being born. The AI spoke one last time. "Core fusion complete. Goodbye, pilots." The ship became pure light. A beam of gold and crimson pierced the blood god's heart. The explosion was so bright that even stars on distant worlds flickered. The Covenant fleet disintegrated. Their energy burned away in silence. The rift collapsed in on itself, consuming the god's body and vanishing into blackness. When the light faded, space was quiet again. Xelara stood safe beneath a clear sky. But the Archwing was gone. No wreckage. No signal. Only a trail of golden dust falling like rain over the planet. Weeks later, the people of Xelara built a monument in their honor. A tower of light that reached toward the stars. They called it the Twin Hearts of the Sky. It was said that when the wind blew through it, you could hear two voices whisper, "I am with you and I am home." But one night, under the silver moons, a small spark of light appeared above the monument. It floated for a moment, then took shape. A figure of pure energy. Half human, half vampire. Its eyes were gold and red. Its voice soft but strong. "Humanity and royalty united," it said. "Balance has been restored." The figure smiled, and the stars around it grew brighter. Then it vanished into the sky. Some say it was Eli and Seraphine. Reborn as guardians of the light, others believe it was only a myth told to comfort a wounded world. But one truth remained clear in the hearts of every being on Xelara. That day, a human and an alien princess proved that love could defy gods. And in the eternal silence of space, a faint whisper echoed forever. Phase 5, peace achieved.